the introduction of new taxes have left many Ghanaians seething in anger. Most notable, the 10% tax on all games of chance, meaning your bet ticket and lottery wins would now be subject to 10% deductions to the Ghanaian government. That, though, is yet to take effect, with the president expected to assent to the bills. The latest development has raised questions on whether these new taxes have actually realized their intentions. Much later, the governing New Patriotic Party has been defending its management of the Ghanaian economy and the size of government. In the face of all of the calls for a downsizing of government, are the reasons for continuing to maintain the current size of government tenable? Stay with us here on Let's Talk Ghana. Welcome. Today is Monday, the 10th of April, 2023. It's the holiday edition and the first edition of Let's Talk Ghana here on Studio 2 TV, and a holiday edition as well. I am Eric Mawina Egbeta. The Ghanaian government, the Akufo-Addo government, has introduced more than 10 new and amended taxes since assuming office in 2017. Notable among them is the Electronic Transfer Levy, also known as e-levy, which was introduced in 2022. That generated huge controversy, and I'm very well sure that all of you would remember the chaos which characterized the passage of that bill and the resultant amendments which the e-levy has seen. Well, the Electronic Transfer Levy Act imposes a 1% on all electronic transfers, and so be it transfers from your bank accounts to your mobile money wallet, or from a mobile money wallet to another, you're subject to pay 1% charge on that particular levy. Majority of these new taxes were introduced after the COVID-19 pandemic in what government says is to shore up the revenue base of the country. I'll be walking you through some of these taxes to give you a fair understanding of exactly what these taxes are and what they seek to do. The first being the COVID-19 Health Recovery Levy Act 2021. The COVID-19 Health Recovery Levy Act was imposed or imposes a 1% COVID-19 health recovery levy against the backdrop of the spending emanating from the COVID-19 pandemic. And so if you're very much aware, if you go to a supermarket to buy anything, or you go to your favorite restaurant, you're likely to be paying this 1% COVID levy. Next was the Financial Sector Recovery Levy Act 2021. The Financial Sector Recovery Levy, that imposes a 5% levy on the profit before tax of all banks. Essentially, the government seeking to claw back on all of the investments made during the banking sector cleanup. And the banks continue to pay this. The Income Tax Amendment Act 2021 is the latest which has been introduced by the government. That provides for a rebate for selected industrial sectors and suspend quarterly installment payment by specified self-employed persons and owners of commercial vehicles and for related matters. Next is the Energy Sector Levy Amendment Act 2021. That is also another of the taxes introduced by the current Akufo-Addo government. That tax provides for an energy sector recovery levy and sanitation and pollution levy, as has been called Bola tax by some political watchers and analysts alike. That is to be imposed on specified petroleum products and for related matters. And so for all of the price hikes in petrol products that we've seen over the last few months, there's a good chance that you've been paying the Bola tax as well. Then there's the Growth and Sustainability Levy 2022. That's one of the recently introduced taxes by the government, which saw a passage when Parliament rose a 137 to 136 majority. That levy replaced the National Fiscal Stabilization Levy that currently imposes a levy on companies operating in selected sectors. It is also projected to raise about 2.2 billion cedis for the government, and that has been touted as one of the many revenue measures which is going to help the government in its aim to quickly get a board approval from the International Monetary Fund. The Excise Duty Amendment Levy 2022, that is a tax that already exists but has been amended by the current government. Then there's the Income Tax Amendment Bill, the one which organized labor is taking strong exception to. And that bill is to amend the income tax in order to revise the rates of income tax for individuals and introduce additional income tax brackets, introduce a withholding tax rate on the realization of assets and liabilities and winnings from lottery, unify the loss carried forward provisions, and revise the treatment of foreign exchange losses. And so that's where the bets and all of those come in as well. So quite a number of taxes as introduced, and I'm still within 7 that have been introduced by the government. The 8th is the withholding tax on realization of assets and liabilities. Then there's the changes in the motor vehicle benefit for employees. And so I've run you through 9 taxes as introduced by the government thus far. And I'll leave it here, really, not to bore you as to the many taxes that have been introduced, but just on your screens you see just 3 more of these new taxes: the withholding tax on winnings from bettings, like I've mentioned, the value added tax amendment, and Get Fund amendment. These new taxes as introduced by the government essentially is to help deal with loopholes in revenue generation and to claw back really on a fast falling really tax bracket and revenue generation bracket for the Ghanaian government. But the question that continues to come up every now and then is whether or not these taxes, as have been imposed by this current government, have realized their intended goals. Those are the questions on the minds of Ghanaians, and not just Ghanaians. For senior economist Dr. Kwame Pianin, for example, he believes all of the other taxes as introduced by this current government is enough. As such, the president should not and must not assent to these new taxes as passed by Parliament before it rose. He's not the only one in this position. The Trades Union Congress are speaking vehemently against these new taxes that have been introduced by the Akufo-Addo government. Let's listen to organized labor really speak to their expectation to these new taxes and what actions they seek to take to monitor the taxes that would be paid.
It is not easy for anybody in this country to pay tax because people have the impression that when even they pay the taxes, it is not used for the purposes for which the tax was introduced. It is not a noble fact too that government needs taxes to also develop the country. But the only problem is that we don't even know what they use the taxes money for. Increase in taxes has its own positive and negatives. So this one is going to affect employment. Management are going to lay off workers if they are unable to pay their taxes, so they are not to meet their income as against their expenditure. Government should have stayed a little to have a conversation with all of us to come at an agreement or compromise. And this time, right, we are not going to sit down and fold our arms. I think we need to monitor the usage of our taxes so that we can hold them accountable for whatever monies that they have taken from us as taxes. They should expand the tax net to cover all those who don't pay taxes, both formal and informal. Before this government came into power, most of the Ghanaians voted for this government because of the promises that he made, that he is not going to increase taxes. He's not going to go to IMF. He's not going to impose. Ghana has a lot of money to deal with our issues. We are very much disappointed. We are worried, and we don't know whether this time around the expected income from this taxes that they have increased is going to be used for what it meant for. Because all the time the increased taxes, they come with reasons why they are increasing taxes. They are going to do ABC, but at the end of the day, nothing is done. That is why we know that taxes are for development, but when we pay, we don't see the development that we envisage. So nobody will be happy to pay tax and doesn't see the corresponding development in the country.
Well, that's the General Secretary, or the Deputy General Secretary, I should say, of the Trades Union Congress, Joshua Ansah, speaking there. He's not alone in this remark or in this regard. The National Association of Graduate Teachers, they've taken a rather uncharacteristic position. They say that they will advise themselves should these new taxes begin to claw back or take inroads into the salaries they receive at the end of April.
If at the end of April we take our salaries and we realize that there is a dip in our salaries, we have no choice than to advise ourselves. My understanding is that we don't want to be worse off. Before the passage of every law, we have what we call stakeholder engagement. There was no stakeholder engagement with organized labor or with any labor group on this tax. Not one single stakeholder engagement. If they had any, they should bring it to the table for us to peruse. None. So for me, the tax, as a matter of fact, is alien to me and will negatively affect teachers and public servants. People ought to take decisions with forward thinking. I don't think it is fair to the people of this country for a government official to take decisions that affect the whole nation negatively and comes back to me, the person, to say that I will have to carry heavier loads and burden. We are worse off today than we were last year. If by the end of April we see a dip in our salaries, we don't have a choice than to advise ourselves.
With all of these concerns, however, leading members of the governing New Patriotic Party on Saturday were in Kwewu for a health march. The walk, dubbed NPP Arise and Build Unity Walk, saw the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, grace the occasion, along with our great Minister, Brian Acheampong, as well as the General Secretary of the party, Justin Frimpong Kodia, all in attendance, and a host of other dignitaries. There are those who argue that this is a subtle announcement of the intention by the Vice President to want to lead the party as its flag bearer come election 2024. We will not delve into that. We're delving into the matters that arose from that health march, because the Vice President, Dr. Bawumia, he delivered a speech after the walk and said that the party, the NPP, is capable of breaking the 8.
Break the 8 no. Empa Nyamiadum yebe break the 8 no, because it is possible. It is possible. It is possible. Intia yebe break the 8 no. Every ejuma every 2017. MPP ma obian dadam ya boy juma pa ya bo ejuma din ama oman ene uhwe ya infrastructure just to start with acquiring roads. No government in the history of Ghana aye roads achieve MPP government. We should interchanges in the Fourth Republic and the history. No government has done more interchanges as in MP. We should bridges the same. No government in the Fourth Republic has bridges free. MP. Classrooms, 5,411 classrooms. No government in the history has built more classrooms than the MPP. We share sports facilities, AstroTurfs, hereby and 2 in the whole of Ghana, and then it's over 80 constituency via AstroTurf. Fiber optic cable, NCA licensed fiber optic cable, the whole Ayeward Ghana, 93% was done in the last 6 years under NP. Of all of Ghana's NCA licensed fiber optic cable. Railway. No government in the history of Ghana since independence, IHRSO, has done more railway than the MPP government of today.
That's the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and he was not alone in the assertions that despite all of the happenings, the current administration has done more than enough to break the 8. Newly sworn in Agric Minister Brian Champong also spoke, and he believes that the party has more than enough within its arsenal to torpedo and end the National Democratic Congress as a party after the 2024 general elections.
The party is buying to Renchem Kakraba 2 year Kwaimu, Ukraine, Russia, war, COVID. Am I into 2 year day? Echo from opposition, who is Argentino? Am I 1 day? Echo through. And saying, the son say, you're possible to know. Biden Shishaye Kwaimu, dollar every 17, about 10. Petrol every 17, about 9, and never in air confirm economy no pajane holo. It is possible. It is possible. It is possible. Yeah, made it this better. And now your my say, time na near my work from no. Sad time no near better aba. I mean, check on my boy. Share region boy. June, July this year. I am a 4 Ababe Soya Sene. Yet to year Akoya economy Nepeja. Yet to year Akoya Amadola Nepeja. Yet to year Akoya Ama Efumu Yami. Yet to year Akoya Ama Benro Channel Iso. NDC Ebegu. Now say what did your margin say? What did the Ahuna Patapa? 2024 now. The veterans say we have the band. The veterans say we have the band. We have the band. Say about MPP party here about Benwi. See about the platform so near the power. I'm my NDC. Esida. A quite be I the first 2024 election. No MPP veteran.
So that's the Agric Minister Brian Champong, who was sworn in some days ago by the President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. And you're still here on Studios 2 TV. This is Let's Talk Ghana, where we put the country first in all matters. And with all of the developments, the conversations will continue as to what next for the Ghanaian economy. For the government, they have their revenue bills passed, and now they are waiting final negotiations with their biggest debtors, that's China, to agree on a debt restructuring so they can secure a board approval from the International Monetary Fund for that $3 billion extended credit facility to show up and help revive the Ghanaian economy. As to whether or not that is the solution to all of the challenges that have bedeviled us over the last few months, we wait to see. We'll end today's edition of Let's Talk Ghana on a rather disturbing note. The conduct of the police, the Ghana Police Service. And that was a subject of controversy and discussion last week when videos emerged of some young men accosting a police officer and attempting to seize the rifle in his hand. Subsequent investigations and interviews granted by members of this group revealed that this was more of a gang having a feud over their loot. All of that and the controversies has been forwarded or referred to the Police Professional Standard Bureau. For a lot of us, the expectation will be that that will be the last, at least for some more weeks, until questions of the police's conduct come up again. Unfortunately, another video has emerged, this time from somewhere in the Ashanti region. And what's all of it about? An eyewitness says that the rather disturbing video, wait, let's just watch that video first, and then we can get some understanding as to exactly what happened. So that's what you saw, and all of it is about bushmeat. A police officer, pair eyewitnesses, seeing the young men with their game, asking that they hand it over. They refused. Then he fired a warning shot into the air. And with these individuals not scared of the men in uniform, they took him on and had to take the intervention of other police officers to help their colleague out of that tussle. It raises series of questions that continue to surround the conduct of police personnel here in the country. The Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Akuffo Dampare, has over the last few months since his appointment taken it upon himself to reform the Ghana Police Service. That continues to be an exercise that has no end in sight, really, if acts like these continue to come up. There are those who have the expectation, like security analyst Dr. Adam Bona, that a lot more must be done beyond reform for persons within the force or the service now, to trainings and exactly what must change. But conduct like these do not bode well for the image of the Ghana Police Service. And so the expectation from us here at Studio 2 TV is that the Inspector General of Police would take decisive action, action that will see deterrence to other men in uniform. That's it from us today here on Let's Talk Ghana. The show is live every Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays, where we put Ghana first in all of our matters. I am Eric Mawina Egbeta. The hope is to see you again on Wednesday. Leave a message for us on the stories and the details that we've been bringing to you, and trust that we'll do the reading next time. Have a good day.
Studios 2 TV. The truth is here in your eyes.